done this in a while.
Yes, I'm back by popular demand, and Zach telling me come over.
Well, I mean, you wanted to talk about this show.
I did want to talk about it. This is one of the reasons I got excited. Mandalorian, like I got excited for Disney Plus because of Mandalorian and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
That was the two main reasons I wanted Disney Plus. And then I was cool.
I would say that these new Marvel shows are definitely one of the reasons why I have kept Disney Plus, because I mean, like, it's nice to have all that like cool legacy content on there, but Disney Plus up to this point, they haven't really been up to the same level as like, you know, Netflix or Amazon in terms of delivering a whole lot of new stuff.
I agree.
Whereas, you know, they're kind of using their licensed properties to kind of fill in those gaps. You know, with Mandalorian, and now they had WandaVision, and now there's this. And so here and now, this is Justin, for those who are unaware. Pre-pandemic, you know, me, Justin, and another friend of ours, Jared, who's not here tonight just because he simply didn't watch the show, we would kind of do these little intermittent we call them roundtable discussions, where we kind of just go back and forth, talking in depth with spoilers about something that we watched. And now that, you know, I got both of my shots, and, you know, Justin, he's getting there too, you know, we kind of like been together throughout the whole entire pandemic and quarantine and everything.
We were safe about it. It wasn't like we were like breathing on each other. We've been smart about being away from people who are sick and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, we at least just wanted to preface that you know, that we definitely took it seriously, but at the same time, you know, we were already hanging out enough to where like we felt safe spending time doing stuff, you know, between the two of us and some of our other friends. So now at the point that we're at, we kind of felt like it'd be good to start doing these again. Yes. And we won't do them too frequently, but like for things that
matter.
Things that matter.
No, for things that'll be cool, I'll show up intermittently. I think Jerry will show up too. Like when we did the Sonic one, that one was really fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
I think that was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, because that was about a month before COVID really became like this massive pandemic in the States.
Oh, that's true, isn't it?
Huh. Back then, people were still regularly going to see movies. Like, you know, The Invisible Man came out around that time, and like Onward and stuff.
Oh, Onward was good. I liked Onward. Okay, I know.
I'm picky. I know.
I liked that movie, but I wasn't like. It's not my favorite Pixar movie, but it was good. I had Chris Pratt in it.
Oh yeah,
and Tom Holland.
Soul was definitely the better one from last year, I thought.
Really? I haven't watched that one yet.
Ooh, shit.
I don't know. I've been lazy. I've been watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes. So to get into that, if you're not aware, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a show that takes place, I think it's about 6 months after the events of Avengers Endgame. And what I like with what the MCU is doing with Phase 4 so far is that every single one of the stories they've told with it has kind of been like in the aftermath of, I guess if you want to call it the blip, as they call it in the timeline, or Hulk snapping everyone back into existence. Each and every thing that has come out since then is kind of giving us like a new perspective on it. You know, Spider-Man Far From Home, you know, you had Peter Parker and all of his friends coming back to high school, and some of their friends who were younger beforehand are now suddenly older than them. WandaVision.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's a good touch.
And they kind of made it like comedic, right?
Right.
But in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they take a much more serious approach to it, and now it's kind of more. They try to make it more reflective of modern day issues, where, you know, refugees nowadays, or I guess not nowadays in the timeline of the series, who were enjoying, you know, being able to have all this access to resources before, and now angry because everyone's back, and now
they're getting shoved, which I can kind of get. The whole thing with Carly's motivations in the show, the antagonist,
yes,
Carly, I kind of got where she was coming from. Like, she was just mad about, like, they had homes and stuff. People had established lives. And then, like, where they've been living for 5 years, and then people get all of a sudden snapped back and they're like, get out of my house. This is my house. And they started pushing people out. And, like, just the government council was making decisions without really consulting of people, and the show addresses that in the last episode at least. But her whole argument of wanting to help refugees and fight against the power, I guess, that was pushing refugees out, I guess I understood where she was coming from. It made her sympathetic to me at least. But she, I guess we'll kind of get into it as the review goes on, she kind of lost me towards middle to end of the show. Like she had the motivations that I was following, and then it was like, oh, I don't really care about what you're doing anymore, I guess.
Other aspects of the show that are kind of introduced in the pilot is, at the very end of Endgame, Sam is handed the shield by Steve Rogers as he's dying of old age, basically. And so he's trying to deal with the idea of someone of his race being African American, dealing with the idea of bearing like the title of Captain America and literally like bearing the vestige of like the stars and stripes. So that's part of it. And then there's also Bucky, the Winter Soldier, formerly, who's trying to deal with, just reckoning with his past and trying to think about how he can just move away from that.
Make amends.
Mm-hmm. And the show kind of stems from that too.
Overall, I thought the pilot was good. The pilot goes, and I think it was interesting. I also thought it was interesting when he gets denied the bank loan.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was interesting. It was a nice little touch. The first pilot, and I think the second and third episodes deal with, among other things, they establish how the movement is fighting back against the, what is it called? Global Recovery? Refugee Council?
Something like that.
It said GRC the whole show, and they said it like once or twice, and I guess it was so forgetful that I forgot it, but it's the GRC.
Yeah.
But they're this council of senators and people from the whole world that are working on getting refugees to go back to their homes or whatever and kicking them out. And Carly's whole thing is she's the power break. What are they called? The freedom breakers?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like this whole show kind of introduces a lot of buzzwords, but they just
like they say them like 3 times and then they don't say them again.
For the purposes of this episode, we'll just call them like the freedom fighters. Like I don't think that's what they are, but that's basically what it is.
They're the rebels. For lack of a better term, they're rebels.
Well, I mean, the actress who plays Carly,
she was
in Solo.
She was in Solo. She was the lady on the motorcycle in Solo with the
Enfys Nest.
Yeah, Enfys Nest. The big staff. It was really cool. I actually really liked her character in Solo. The pilot establishes where Sam is at. He's contracting with the government. You have Bucky trying to make amends. He goes on a date with that chick from the bar. And you find out he's hanging out with this old man who inadvertently is the Winter Soldier under mind control. He ends up killing this guy's son. So in order to make amends, he hangs out with this old Chinese guy. And then at the very end, the government announces Wyatt Russell's character, John Walker, as Captain America. And, dude, it looked like freaking Mr. Fredrickson.
Yes.
From Up. It looked like Mr. Fredrickson with Captain America helmet on. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's so weird, though. Like, Wyatt Russell doesn't have, like, a square jawline, but wearing that helmet, it makes him look like...
Made him have a square jawline.
Yeah, it looks like just a block face. Maybe just like a hairline away from looking like Steve in Minecraft.
I was going to say he looked like a Minecraft character. All joking aside, I actually really liked him. He played the part of being crazy. Like, he was more complex than people give him credit for. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the people on Twitter that were bashing him as an actor are stupid. I know that this has been said by multiple different people, but Wyatt Russell played his character so that you would hate him. That was the whole point of John Walker, was that you would learn to hate him. As good as a guy as he is, that you would end up hating him and not want him to be Captain America. Anyway, I thought he did a good job. I don't think he deserves all the hate. I actually really liked his arc as far as him being like, oh, I want to fulfill all these expectations and do really good, and then struggle with those and make some decisions that weren't great and lead him to being at odds with Sam and Bucky, and then being a good guy towards the end again. So I appreciated that about him. He's a good dude. I liked him.
I don't know if I quite agree with liking the progression of his character. I definitely agree that for a lot of it, Wyatt Russell does a great job of being someone who you absolutely hate. And for context's sake, the thing that everyone hated him for was that, Steve, he kind of had like this. He treated his title with respect, basically, where like he never drew attention to himself, and he kind of acted with integrity throughout, his whole entire tenure in the MCU. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas John Walker, even though he is trying to play the role of good soldier, and he's trying to act on behalf of America, he approaches it with much more of a violent, personal vendetta kind of approach to it. Mm. And I think, the two of us have mentioned before this video that like one of our favorite moments in the whole entire show was where, he kind of has this super violent moment where his friend in the show, I forget his name, but like
Lamar.
Lamar, yes.
Patriot something. I really should have looked all these names up. I had them and then I forgot them. But he's Lamar. It's his sidekick, if you will. Like Captain America, Steve Rogers had Sam the Falcon. Captain America, John Walker had Lamar as his buddy. Anyway, they were friends, and then he gets killed at one point and drives John Walker insane. Mm-hmm.
And there's this great visual moment where Wyatt Russell, as John Walker, is lifting up the shield, and you can just see in his eyes like just this rage-fueled fury, and getting back at the person that he killed Lamar, and then he just slams it down on him, being like all judge, jury, and executioner kind of thing. And it really reminded me of, not quite to the same level of hateability, but Homelander from The Boys, which I don't think you've seen.
I haven't watched it.
But Homelander in that show, he is basically like the embodiment of a douchebag. Someone who like is completely antithetical to who he should be, like at least with like what his image is, and he's very hateable, but does an amazing job at it, the actor. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, Wyatt Russell does a great job, but I think with what you're saying in terms of how he kind of like turns good in the finale, which we can get into more, but like I think it's a far cry from what the show was leading up to. At least in the moment when he made the decision to like save people versus getting his revenge. And it was far less interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll get into my biggest problem with the show has to deal directly with that. Mm. And later on down the line we will. But I think that there's one other thing with this arc that's really interesting is the whole point of this show is dealing, among other things, they deal with finding super soldier serum. And he ends up taking some of the serum that Carly, I guess the whole point of the show is she stole some superhero serum from the power broker in Madripoor. And she carries around these vials of super soldier serum, and they end up getting smashed by Zemo, who's Dark Horse, one of the better characters in this whole show. But they get smashed, and Walker ends up finding one. And if you recall in Captain America First Avenger, the Erskine, the doctor who makes Steve Rogers Captain America, who develops the super soldier serum, says it amplifies everything everything that you are inside. So good becomes great. Bad becomes worse. And I'm not saying Walker's an all-around bad guy. There are some elements of him that are good, and there are parts of him that are bad. And part of that bad is that he was trying to fill in these shoes, and he would do whatever it took to fill Captain America's shoes. And he ended up taking the super soldier serum when he probably shouldn't have, and that kind of amplifies his, I gotta do this because I gotta be Captain America, blah, 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 and all this craziness that's in his head. It amplifies it into him being like nutty and going crazy and killing the guy with the shield. Which led to one of the cooler fights in the show of Sam and Bucky fighting against John Walker for the shield.
Yes. Yes. I guess on that line, I kind of want to talk about the action a little bit because I think it's definitely worth talking about in this series in particular because Marvel movies tend to not have the most memorable action scenes, I don't think. And I think a lot of these action scenes in the show aren't among the best in the Marvel canon. Granted, it's much better than the finale of WandaVision. The action in that was terrible. But like, I think for the most part it was just passable. Like aside from maybe like the chase scene with the helicopter and Sam in the finale, that was cool.
That, yeah.
And then
the fight on the truck was cool.
Oh yeah, I like that one though.
Yeah, the fight on the truck was cool, and I thought when the three of them were duking it out, I thought was cool too.
Yes, that was the highlight. That one reminded me a lot of the Civil War fight at the very end. Just how tough it was. Like there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat there, and you could really feel the intensity of it. And I think that was just what was lacking with some of the other scenes that just lacked tension there.
Right.
Whereas, the truck fight, there's a lot of that there because there were like a lot of near-death encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like a better version of the truck fight that was in Mandalorian Season 2.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good truck fight, too.
Right.
But I think this one felt, because of the camera work and how that was, I think it felt much more involved.
I will say that's in episode...
That one's 2, isn't it? Episode 2? 2?
Yeah, because there's the episode where he comes and tries to be friends with them, and they're like, shut up, man. And you get him out of the way. They're like, you're not Captain America, and you're an idiot for thinking that. He's like, well, I am Captain America. They're like, have you jumped on a grenade? He's like, yeah, 3 times. And Buck's just like, turns around and walks away.
Right.
But after that, they need to get a lead on super soldier serum, and they go get Zemo. And for those of you who have been through Marvel movies, Zemo in Civil War, I was actually watching Civil War today, and I was like, oh, I'll go watch Zemo. Zemo was the most boring character in Civil War.
You think so?
I mean, he's not the most boring, but like, back through the lens of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, they worked him so good in this, and in Civil War, he's just not as good as Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I'll give you that. Like, he's definitely doesn't have, like, the ego about him.
Yeah, he doesn't have room to breathe in Civil War. In the show, he has a lot more room to breathe and project himself. And
I think keeping him in that solitary confinement for so long made him... I think it made him want some human interaction a bit, don't you think?
Yeah.
Whereas in Civil War, he just kind of hated everybody.
Yeah. I may be able to be of some help. Shut up!
I know the kind of like the thing with movie studios now is like to make their movie marketable, it has to be like meme-worthy. But
he had like all the memes from the show.
Right? Zemo, like, they organically gave him lines that turned into memes. Like, it wasn't forced.
It was awesome. It was just amazing. The writing for him was awesome.
Yeah.
When they get into this private jet, it sounds like, you've been rich? He's like, well, I am a baron. Before you guys dropped Sokovia on my house, I was rich. and Sam just goes, all right.
And then, what's the musical artist they're talking about?
They talk about Marvin Gaye's...
Marvin Gaye, yeah.
Trouble Man. The Trouble Man Marvin Gaye soundtrack that Sam tells Steve Rogers about in Winter Soldier. He's like, I told Steve about it, and Bucky's like, I prefer 40s movies. Zemo goes,
it's a masterpiece, James. Complete, comprehensive. It captures the African-American experience.
He's out of line, but he's right.
So funny. It's just awesome. He's one of the best characters in the whole show. When he comes in to Madripoor and is immediately like in his element, and when they brings the Turkish delight to the kids, like he plays the fine line between like frenemy and helper, and like oh, I'm going to make all these backup plans so that I can hurt you guys later type deals. And I really like the interaction between the three of them, between Zemo and Bucky and Sam, and all three of them going.
I could have watched the whole series just with those three.
I really could have. And I'm sad. I'm sad that they kicked him off in the second to last episode. The whole thing is that at the third to last episode, the Wakandans show up, the Dora Milaje, and they're like, he must answer for his crimes of killing King T'Chaka, which is T'Challa's dad, which is right, he should. But I wish that the Dora Milaje just left him alone for like a day more so that he could finish out the show, and then the end could be him going into his cell at the raft.
Yeah.
But
I
digress. I wish that would have happened.
Yeah. Episodes 3 and 4 definitely were the peak. A lot of it because of him.
4 and 5. 3, 4, and 5 were the peak of the show. And then, like, oh no, hold on, wait a second. There's only 6 episodes, right? Yeah, 3 and 4. I'm sorry, 3 and 4.
Well, the action scene at the very beginning of episode 5, kind of like what you were saying, I think that's the overall height of the entertainment. But, like, I think overall as episodes 3 and 4 were. And I don't know if it directly has to do with this, along with Zemo, of course, but the writer of the John Wick movies was the primary writer in those episodes, Derek Kolstad. And I think that guy really knows just how to make... He knows how to make kind of like these grimy action stories really enjoyable to watch. And I especially liked how... I forget if this was episode 3 or 4 or not, but there's the moment where the power broker sends out all the people in like Madripoor.
Oh yeah, that was 3. When they're walking down the road with the bounty calls going up like in John Wick.
It was exactly like John Wick 2. It was amazing.
I was like, oh man, it's just like John Wick and everyone's getting a text. And then the chick in the window, she was like, as they were walking past.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
We do have to talk about the power broker. Because this is, without a doubt, one of my biggest issues with this show.
Yeah.
Because I think the show overall, even though there were a lot of great moments with its villains, particularly John Walker, villain, yeah, I think...
And Carly, too.
Yeah. All of them do, but overall, I think a lot of them don't really have that satisfying of a conclusion to them. Power Broker / Sharon Carter being one of the least satisfying, in my opinion.
Sorry, I don't know if you can see my eye roll from way at the camera, but like you got the feeling from the beginning when you see her in Madripoor and she meets Sam and Bucky. You're like, oh, she's in here. Oh, I wonder what she's doing in Madripoor. And then she's like, oh, I got this big estate. And people like leave her alone and like, okay, so she's a lot more than she says. And you're like, oh, the power broker lives upstate. Like, oh, is she going to end up being the power broker? And then, like, she makes calls in season 4, like she's calling people that are under her. And then she makes another call hiring bad guys to work with Carly. And you're just like, okay, so she's the power broker without saying that she's the power broker. And then at the end, the last episode, Carly's like, I'm disappointed in you. The power broker wouldn't have... She said something about having super soldiers and super serum wouldn't be a lot of power for the power broker or something like that. And all Sharon does is just go, It's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like,
it's like, do they really think this is like some cool reveal? It's like, it was so lame.
Yes.
Granted, not as lame as a Disney twist like when General Hux was like,
I'm the spy.
It was so underwhelming.
The development for her reveal as the power broker, I felt, was just very lacking. Like, it felt forced to me.
Yes, you could see it coming from a mile away.
Thankfully, at least, I think, overall, though, the opposite could be said about our main characters, Sam and Bucky.
I agree.
Because I think their progression as characters is definitely the highlight of the show.
Yep. Sam,
first of all, and then Bucky second, I think.
The part that got me with Bucky was, there were 2 parts. When it shows in the first minutes of 4, I think.
Oh, yes.
When it shows him breaking the Winter Soldier programming in Wakanda with the Dora Milaje chick. I can't remember her name. I don't even think it said it in the show.
I don't think it did either.
I think it was just Dora Milaje. But she's the one that helped him break his programming, which was really cool because you can see him struggling. It's funny, in Civil War, I was watching it today, when Zemo does the programming for him, it's like 2 words in and he's already like, oh crap, I'm turning into the Winter Soldier. In the show, it shows him like he tenses up when he starts saying the word, when she starts saying the words in Russian, and he's like he feels like he's going to go bad, and then it doesn't, and he starts crying because he's like, I broke it, I'm finally free from the Winter Soldier programming, which is really cool. I thought that was a good thing to do in the show, and then him and Bucky talking to each other about how Bucky needs to stop trying to please everybody and just help someone. I thought that was cool. I like them as a duo. I thought the buddy cop, them two working together was awesome. I like their banter. I thought when they were sitting in the therapy, knee to knee, facing each other, I thought that was hilarious. It's supposed to be a big moment, but like leading up to that, they start having a staring contest. Are you having a staring contest?
I don't know if that. I mean,
It was funny. It was supposed to be comedic, and I mean, it was a dumb joke, but it was.
It felt
I
a little
laughed.
bit too kid humory.
I laughed a little bit at it, you know.
I can be kind of hard to please when it comes to humor. Like there has to be a certain spontaneity with jokes in order for me to laugh anyway. That's why I like shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway so much, because it's all spontaneity. It's all on the spot. Whereas with jokes like that, there's a lot of setup and just like not really a lot of payoff.
Right.
And that's why I think like a lot of Marvel humor, especially in this show, doesn't really work for me personally. But again, that's a personal thing. I don't know if that's the same for everybody.
I giggled. It's not A+ material, but it's at least kind of entertaining, to me at least. I thought that going back, I thought them bouncing off each other were really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anthony Mackie is... It's not that I didn't like him, I just didn't think of him as a major character in the MCU for a while. And now I think they're transitioning to him being like, because he's going to be Captain America, he's got to be like, okay, we're going to bring you from minor somebody that's kind of cool, but also you've been living in Cap's shadows, so we have to flesh you out a little bit. And I thought that was cool as he gets moved from minor to major character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think they did a good job with that.
And on that note, what do you think about like what the show was doing in terms of, you know, him basically reckoning with assuming that title as himself?
Oh, we totally missed talking about Isaiah Bradley.
Yes, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, so turns out I haven't read any of the Captain America comics at all. So I went into this kind of blind, but Isaiah Bradley was like this big deal during, did he say Vietnam or Korean War?
I think it might have been Korean War.
One of those. It was like in the 70s, 80s range. But the American government, I guess, in the show timeline, takes like these group of African American males and experiments different versions of the super soldier serum on them. And Isaiah Bradley's worked for him. So he became a black Captain America during the Korean War. But they didn't let him be out in front of the country. They kept him as a secret. Similar to what happens with, if you remember X-Men, the Wolverines team from X-Men Origins, how they were secret and experimented on with General Stryker. Sergeant Stryker, I can't remember what his name is.
I think so,
but they're like a secret death squad that the U.S. can send out, but they don't have. They're like a suicide squad. Anyway, my point in this is that the U.S. government kept them secret so that they wouldn't have to assume responsibility for them, and basically just kept them encaged until they needed them to run a mission, and then they'd bring him back. And he's really bitter because he was married, and they wrote him out that he died in action, and he never got to see his wife again, and she died, and he outlived his wife. And finally he escaped and was living as a nobody in the show. It was really sad to have him. And Sam goes, why isn't he out in the open? Why this and that and the other? Why the world would change if they knew that there was a black Captain America, or African American Captain America. And Bucky goes, he's been through enough. And when Sam goes back to talk to Isaiah with the shield, Isaiah's like, don't open that up. I already know what it is. I don't want to see it. Leave me dead because I'm at peace right now. I don't have anybody breathing down my neck. If you went out and said that I was still alive, the government would just send someone to kill me because I'm technically not supposed to be alive. And at the end, Sam makes sure there's an exhibit in the Captain America exhibit of the Smithsonian. They have a spot that talks about Isaiah Bradley and enumerates him and his buddies as they were experimented on and left for dead or whatever, and we wanted to recognize them for their service, which I thought was, that storyline I thought was really cool.
Yes.
I really liked Isaiah Bradley, and I could feel his emotion coming out. I think the actor who was Isaiah Bradley was really good.
There was definitely a lot of strong emotion that came through in episode 2. At one point, I feel bad for saying this, but I kind of made fun of it when he's like, get out of my house! But in the context of those later episodes that you're explaining, like, it definitely makes sense why you have, like, those emotional outbursts.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I think some moments in which they were kind of, like, commenting on race relations in America were a little bit forced, you know, kind of like with the police encounter.
Oh,
That
yeah.
felt a little bit...
It felt like right on the... It felt a little on the nose for me, at least coming out of Isaiah's house, at least pacing-wise. But I didn't feel like that was, like, a bad thing, I guess.
No.
I thought it was interesting because, they're talking about going outside of Isaiah Bradley's house. They're talking, and Bucky and Sam are arguing about why they kept Isaiah Bradley's secret, because even Steve Rogers didn't know about Isaiah Bradley, and how they kept him secret, and immediately cops show up and want to arrest Sam for arguing with Bucky, and they think he's going to be violent. It's so, like, it was such a punch in the teeth as far as, like, a real life, like, race relations situation, that, like, as soon as they find out that he's the Falcon, immediately their demeanors change. Which I was like, okay. I immediately I was like, come on, cops, seriously? Like, you know, anyway, without getting too political or into it that much,
Yeah.
It was a very accurate representation of what is going on between race relations with police officers and stuff like that. I thought it was really good.
Mhm.
I thought it was an accurate representation. I thought it was good.
I definitely think that kind of conversation has to be had in media because people are just, they don't want to have it, and so to be confronted with it, I think sometimes is necessary.
And something that's so popular as like a Marvel show, I think was a good way to do it. And they didn't it didn't feel pushy to me. It just kind of felt organic.
Yeah. I mean, that specific moment, not so much, but like, I think, for me at least, but like, the rest of it, you know, with Sam reckoning with the idea of someone of his race, of his ethnicity, becoming Captain America, I really felt that. Like, I thought that was a great, for him, that was a great progression of his character, at least. And it made sense kind of where he was coming from and how he reckoned with it, at least in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I thought that whole thing and how it related to Isaiah Bradley was really good. And, yeah, that's pretty much what I would say about that.
I think going with the finale, I think his speech at the end is really good. I think where this show, specifically in the finale, lacks, a big, like, thing for me was I think this show needed, like, 2 episodes more to fully develop everything that happens in the finale. Because the finale is, like, the first half an hour is them stopping the Flag Smashers. That was the name. Yeah, they were Flag Smashers. That's the name of the group, Flag Smashers. But them stopping the Flag Smashers in the finale was really cool for the half hour, and you get that helicopter chase scene with Sam, and he uses the shield to beat people up, and you're like, oh, he's Captain America, and he has the comic accurate suit. That was one of the notes I had, was that the suits in the show were directly out of the comics, which I thought was really cool. That was one thing the MCU's kind of been, like, blowing a little bit. There have been ones where they've been really good comic accurate ones, and ones where they've been like, oh, we're going to take artistic leisure with this comic, but with this comic suit. But the comic Captain America Sam Wilson one is straight out of the comics. The U.S. Agent one straight out of the comics, which is really cool. But what I'm getting at is that the finale was like the first half hour was really cool, and then after that it was like, oh, we got to figure out a way to resolve all these plot points that we had, and it was like a bad mixture of stuff that kind of came up to one that was a little bit lacking, I think, in the finale-wise. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily with his speech, but the other stuff around that.
A lot of it with like the resolutions of all the villain characters, I thought personally.
Yep.
A lot of those were just dissatisfying to me.
Yeah.
Carly in particular.
She gets killed.
She becomes basically like a one-dimensional megalomaniac in the end. And for part of the reason I get it, like with what she experiences, like in the middle of the show, particularly like episode 4, I think it was. But I think with the writing, they leaned a little bit too far into her being a villain. And the show didn't really reckon with that in the end, other than the speech. And then John Walker, I wasn't convinced when he made such a what's the word? Like in the moment decision to save those people versus getting his own vendetta.
Yeah.
And then becoming the U.S. agent in the end. For me, that didn't work personally, just because I didn't really think there was enough setup. Or there was too much setup in the other direction for the change, the paradigm shift to work.
I really think that they would have benefited. Even just one episode more would have been just enough. They could have taken like 3 plot points from the very end of the episode and moved them to that second to the last episode, and that would have been fine. Overall, I thought the show was pretty good. I think that they set themselves up. I did like the end. They changed it from Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice nod. And Bucky being like, I'm friendly Bucky at the end with Sam's family, I thought was cool. That was a good end for them to be friendly. But yeah, John Walker's character, they're obviously setting up something. I don't know what they're going to do. Julie Louis-Dreyfus Lewis's character. Is it Louis-Dreyfus or Dreyfus-Lewis?
Louis Dreyfus, I think.
Yeah. Her character, I didn't know she's from the comics, but apparently she's like Madam Hydra. She's a secret agent.
Supposedly she's supposed to have a role in Black Widow as well. I don't know what.
Really?
But, yeah.
Oh man, if she does, that would be kind of cool.
We'll probably get together again to talk about that, I imagine.
Black Widow, yeah. Stupid Marvel. I was going to be done with Endgame.
Right.
All right. Endgame, this is cool. 2 of my favorite characters. They're pulling them out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'll be done. I don't really care about any of the other characters besides maybe Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy. And then like, oh, well look, we'll give you all this junk that you can watch on Disney Plus. I'm like, you son of a... I'm in.
Morty.
Yeah.
I think so far, like Phase 4 has definitely been interesting. It hasn't been the greatest. I mean, I didn't love Far From Home. I was loving WandaVision for a bit, and then it was like good but not great. And then so far, for me, this show overall, I feel kind of mixed on it. Like I think a lot of the storylines, kind of like you were saying, were they dropped the ball on that a little bit. But there are other ones that were great,
Amazing,
like Sam and Isaiah, and then I really liked the resolution for Bucky. Yeah, and then just kind of how it related to everyday realistic things. But I don't know. I think there were a lot of ideas there that they threw out there, I should say. Some of them stuck, and a lot of them just didn't really coalesce into anything.
It's good. There were parts of the show that I'd watch again. I'd probably watch it over. Like I said, I really liked Bucky and Sam working together. I really liked it when they worked with Zemo, which I didn't think I was going to like as much, but I really liked Zemo. Mm-hmm. But I think that Zemo got memed a lot after that second or third episode when he did the dancing, and then freaking Marvel's like, let's do a 10-hour cut of Zemo dancing. It's like,
yeah,
what the heck are we doing? Why would
people watched it?
Of course people watched it. But, like, I don't need to see 10 hours of, David Grohl That's the actor's name, right?
Close enough.
Isn't
Daniel
it
Bruhl, I
Daniel
think.
Bruhl? I don't need 10 hours of him just doing. It's just freaking stupid. The internet.
It cherry picks the things that it wants to make fun of, I guess.
I guess. Overall, I thought it was good. I think there are some plot points that needed to really be changed. And I did not care about Sharon Carter's character. And they're trying to make her be something way more than she is. And I thought she was an effective side character in Civil War. There wasn't too much of her where I was like, oh, Agent Carter 2.0 or whatever. She said just enough that I was like, okay, you're a cool character, but I don't really care about you. And she moved to the side for all the other people that were in Civil War. But they tried to make her up to be something way more than she was, and she just wasn't.
Yeah, unless they figure out some way to make her compelling in Captain America 4 or a potential season 2 of this, I can't take it seriously.
I know. She'll be a really bad villain. I don't know. I liked her better as a good guy.
Yeah.
But she's back in the CIA, and now she's going to sell government secrets. Woohoo!
Yay!
Set up for whatever that one is.
Hail Hydra.
Yeah. She really just needs to get Cap to move on.
Goodness. The character, not the actor, mind you. Or not those people.
Agent Carter. Not the actor. I think she's actually a pretty decent actor.
Yeah.
I think she's good. I think she got some really bad writing in the show, specifically for her character. But, whatever.
Cool. Well, I think that's a wrap on our discussion. I mean, I can't really think of anything else I want to say.
You should definitely watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it.
Yes, formulate your own opinion. Don't let what I'm saying or what Justin's saying sway you. This is we're just two average guys, just talking. But
if nothing else, you should watch it just for just watch the episodes of Match Report and the ones with Simo. The ones that were
the
written,
John Wick episode.
the ones that were written by I forgot that he had written those. The ones written by the John Wick guy are really good. Those ones are probably the best episodes of the whole series.
Yeah, I'd probably say so. But either way, though, I appreciate you checking out this particular video. We're glad to have finally done one after, 14 months?
It's enough.
Yeah. But if you like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel and join the notification squadron so that you don't miss out on future videos, which most of them will be the typical voiceover content I make, but, sometimes we'll do this kind of thing. And then, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great one.
Bye.
Bye!